Good morning. This God was really just like putting this theme in my spirit so heavy. So I'm like I had to do um a music ministry and Bible study this morning. Although like I said, it may not be a lot of music with it today, but God, I pray that you take over this live. Let it be all of you and none of me. Speak through me. Use me as your willing vessel. So I say only what you want me to say and not what I think I'm supposed to say or not what I think sounds good or not what I think I want to hear or what I think the people want to hear. But speak through me so I say only what it is that you once said in this season at this moment through me, you know. And then give us the ears to hear, to discern what it is that you're saying and how it relates to our life. And then give us the proof within our life so that we will be able to confirm what it is that you're saying, whether it's through other people or however you see fit. Bring your angels from the north, south, east, and west to cover this live. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So normally I do my music ministry and Bible study at school or this or later in the day. But this was so heavy on my spirit. So we're in Second Chronicles, right? And Second Chronicles deals with a lot of the kings. It's going through a lot of the kings, right? So it's really going over David's line, which we read about in First and Second Samuel's, and then First and Second Samuel, and then it goes over um, First and Second Kings. And when I'm reading First and Second Kings, I'm trying to understand why is it that it's the repeat thing that whenever the kings followed, God and did what He told them to do, and He would bless them and all that stuff, things would be good for them. They would prosper. But for the kings that were evil, or for the ones who God would take them to a level of prosperity, and then they would forget about Him. They would come through hardship and trials and tribulations. And then sometimes these evil kings didn't always treat the prophets right. You know, God would send in prophets or He would send in people to give the kings a word or a warning or something like that. And they didn't always heed. And so for whatever reason, that has been the theme. And I kept trying to understand, like, why do I keep getting this same thing, like this same warning, like this same, like, God gonna bless you, He gonna do what He promised you He's gonna do, but don't forget about Him, keep Him first, all that kind of stuff. It makes me think that God knows our hearts, like He knew how the children of Israel were. The children of Israel were very hard-headed, and they never wanted to listen. And they would do whatever needed to be done when they were going through the worst, when they were praying out to God for help. They would do whatever God wanted them to do. But then as soon as they got what they wanted, it was like they would go back to their old ways, or they would be selfish, or they would mistreat people or whatever. You can't mistreat God's children. I'm going to say this because it's on my heart. There are a lot of people who they look down on people, because they feel like, oh, they're not needed, or maybe they went to the people, or the people were in their life at a time when they needed help, or they needed the services or whatever. And then once they got to a certain level, they began to mistreat the people because they felt like they didn't need them no more. You never know when you are being tested. You never know when God is trying to see, once you have it, will you still do right? Once I bless you with the things that you've asked me for, will you still be a blessing to others? Once I take you to where you've been praying, will you give to the homeless? Will you give to the needy? If somebody comes up to you and they ask you for help, will you still help them? Will you still be a blessing to my children when I take you to the level that I promised you? Or will you be like some of the kings in Second Chronicles that we're reading about, that once they get to that level, they turn against what God told them when they were in the wilderness. You got to watch how you treat people, because you never know when God is testing you. You never know when God has sent somebody purposely in your life to see how you will react, especially when you've gotten to the point where you are no longer in the wilderness phase and you are in that point where God promised you he would take you. You're at the top. You're at the top of the pinnacle. You're at the top of the corporation. You're at the top of the church. You're at the top of the organization. You are the head honcho. Everybody looks to you for help. You made it there. You are a star now, all that kind of stuff. So now here comes the testing. When he takes you to that level, will you remember him? Because sometimes God will test you. He will send in people purposely when you get to a certain level, or he will have people in your life specifically to see how will you act or what will you do when I have taken you to where I promised you in Deuteronomy 8:18 that I will take you. So people like to read the Deuteronomy 8:18, but they don't want to hear the warning. They want to hear about how, Moses brought the children out of Israel and all that kind of stuff, but they didn't want to hear about how the children of Israel were hard-headed and they complained and they didn't want to do right. And they still wanted to worship other gods and they wanted to do the most. They don't like hearing about that part. They don't want to hear about the warning. They want to hear about how Solomon became king and how God blessed him and he was the most prosperous king ever. And he had more money and wisdom than all the kings before him. They love hearing that, but they don't want to hear about what happened when King Solomon did not do what God told him to do and started worshiping the gods of his wives. He brought turmoil to the generations that came behind him. But he didn't care because he was selfish. King Solomon was selfish. He got to that point where he was selfish. He didn't care. I ain't going to be here. He was selfish. You never know when God is testing you. Sometimes God will bring someone in your life just to see what you're going to do. Now that you have this level, now that you're here, now that I've got you there, what you going to do? You never know when you are entertaining angels unaware. You see, God is not just putting people in high places just because. He's putting his soldiers there so that they can do his will. So he got to know, is you even going to be worthy? When I put you up there and I give you everything and your bank account is swole and everybody's seeing you like the head honcho, because when you got the most, everybody in your face. Everybody want to know because everybody want to be where you are. So everybody trying to be your best friend when you got the most. But what will you do when that homeless person comes up to you and asks you for $1? But what will you do when somebody who you see is struggling like how you used to struggle comes to you and asks you for help? What you going to do? You going to be like, I can't, I don't know, I get all that? What you going to do when somebody in your family or your friends or somebody that comes to you and they need help and you know that you got it? What you going to do? You never know when you're being tested. And God will know whether or not he can use you because he's always elevating. So he's going to take you to this level. He's going to see how you going to act. What you going to do? And he'll send warnings in. And he'll send people in. He'll send prophetic words in. He'll do all that. Are you going to listen? What you going to do? So we're in 2 Chronicles chapter 29. I never know, and I don't know, where all this chapter is going to lead me because I don't read in advance. And I do that purposely. I mean, I read throughout the Bible, whatever, but when I'm doing my music ministry and Bible study, I don't read ahead of time because I'm starting to notice that this Bible is real time. And when I go in order, when it comes in my spirit, when it's heavy on me that I need to do a music ministry and Bible study, it be for a reason. And whatever I'm talking about, Jesus, whatever God has placed in my heart, when I read the scriptures, it seems like it's always in alignment. It's in alignment with what the word that God is releasing. So I don't know. But we're about to read this right here. And it's so wild because it says, so my Bible is broken down by chapters. And there's usually a leading. And so I'm reading here, it says, Hezekiah succeeds Asa in Judea. We just talked about Hezekiah. We just talked about Hezekiah like 2 chapters ago or something like that. So God is really repositioning his people. He has to, because of the turbulent times that we're in. You got so many people who need words of encouragement and inspiration because they fighting suicide on a daily basis, or they're in the spirit of depression, or they're fighting things that they can't see because the enemy is after them, because the word or who they are is powerful in the kingdom. You got a lot of people who need inspiration. They need uh they need to start reading their Bible. They need to get back into the Word. They need to start putting God first. They need to heed the warnings. Don't just look for the blessings, but listen to the warnings, because the warnings are just as important as the blessings. So anyway, we know that Hezekiah was king. We know he was down the line from David, right? Because God promised that he would never remove one of David's descendants from being king of Judea or Jerusalem, from covering, that whole area. He did, because of Solomon, they lost all of Israel. They weren't able to be king. There were no kings that was over all of Israel anymore after David, or after Solomon. But he promised to never remove one of his descendants from Judea. So Hezekiah is one of the kings of Judea. So let's see what this about what this is about to bring out. Because like I said, the Bible be real time. And in case you don't know me, I'm Patricia M. Goins. And in 2022, God spoke to me and he told me to start reading the Bible from the beginning. He said, because it's better to understand a thing if you start at the beginning of the thing. So I started in Genesis, and I am now up to Second Chronicles. So what is that? 3 years? I've been doing this for 3 years now. 3 years. And when I say the Bible is real time, I am so serious. Even when we started reading the book of Judges, it was at that, we started reading the book of Judges on October 1st, 2024. By October 7th, Israel was at war in that same area, in that same territory. Is the Bible so real time? It's almost like, wow. So anyway, let's read about Hezekiah. So we're on 2 Chronicles chapter 29. Hezekiah succeeds Asa in Judea. Hezekiah became a king when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abijah, I guess it's Abijah, Abijah, and daughter of Zechariah. He did right in the sight of the Lord, in accordance with everything that David, his father or forefather, had done. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of the Lord, which his father had closed, and repaired them and replaced the gold overlay. He brought in the priests and Levites and gathered them into the square of the east. Next section, 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 5. It says, reform begins. Then he said to them, Levites, listen to me. Hold on, because I want to make sure I can read this well. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Then he said to them, Levites, listen to me. Now consecrate or dedicate yourselves and consecrate the house of the Lord, the God of your fathers, and get the filth of idol worship out of the holy place. For our fathers have been unfaithful and have done evil in the sight of the Lord our God, and they have abandoned him and have turned their faces away from the dwelling place of the Lord and have turned their backs toward him. They have also closed the doors of the temple porch and put out the lamps, and they have not burned incense nor offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the God of Israel. Let me turn this around for a second. Okay. So y'all can see where I'm at right here. Therefore, the wrath of the Lord has been against Judea and Jerusalem, and he has made them an object of terror, of horror, and of hissing, just as you see with your own eyes. For behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity because of this. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant, solemn agreement with the Lord God of Israel, so that his burning anger will turn away from us. My sons, uh, do not be negligent and careless now, for the Lord has chosen you to stand in his presence, to attend to his service, and to be his ministers and burn incense. Then the Levites arose. Is that Matthiah? Mahath? Mahatha? I'm sorry. The son of Amazi, I guess that is, and Joel, the son of Azariah, from the sons of, listen, that's a whole bunch. Listen, I'm not going to torture myself, but y'all see all them different names, okay? Let me jump down because I can't, listen, don't judge me. From the sons of, oh, that's a bunch of more sons. Lord have mercy. So I can't pronounce these names, y'all, but y'all see where I'm at. So let's jump down to 15. Y'all can go back and read the names. They gathered their brothers, fellow Levites, another together, consecrated themselves, and went in to cleanse the house of the Lord, as the king had commanded by the words of the Lord. The priests went into the inner part of the house of the Lord to cleanse it, and every unclean thing they found in the temple of the Lord, they brought out to the courtyard of the Lord's house. Then the Levites received it to take out to the Kidron, is it Kidron? Valley for disposal. Now they began the consecration on the first day of the first month, and on the 8th day of the month they came to the porch of the Lord. Then for 8 days they consecrated the house of the Lord, and on the 16th day of the first month they finished. Then they went inside. They went inside to the king Hezekiah and said, "We have cleansed the entire house or temple of the Lord, the altar of burnt offerings with all of its utensils, and the table of showbread with all of its utensils. Moreover, we have prepared and consecrated all the utensils which King Asa had discarded during his reign in his unfaithfulness. And behold, they are in front of the altar of the king." So then it says Hezekiah restores temple worship. Then King Hezekiah arose early and assembled the officials of the house of the city and went up to the house of the Lord. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, 7 male goats for a sin offering for the kingdom, the sanctuary in Judea. He commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Lord. So they slaughtered the bulls, and the priest took the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. They also sprinkled the rams and sprinkled the blood on the altar. Then they they slaughtered the lamb and sprinkled the blood on the altar. Then they brought the male goats to the sin offering before the king in the assembly, and they laid their hands on them to symbolize the transference of their sin. The priests slaughtered them and cleansed the altar from sin and their blood to atone for all of Israel, because the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offerings be made for all Israel. Hezekiah stationed the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals, with harps, with lyres, I guess it's a type of instrument, in accordance with the command of David, his ancestor, and of Gad the king's seer, and of Nathan the prophet, for the command was from the Lord through his prophets. The Levites stood with the musical instruments of David, and the trumpet, and the priests with trumpets. Then Hezekiah gave the order to offer the burnt offerings on the altar. And when the burnt offerings began, It began with the song to the Lord, also began with the trumpets accompanied by the instruments of David, king of Israel. The entire congregation worshipped. The singers also sang, and the trumpets sounded. All this continued until the burnt offerings were finished. When the burnt offerings were completed, and the king and all who were present with him bowed down and worshiped God. Also, King Hezekiah and the officials offered the Levites to explain praises to the Lord with the words of David and Asphir the seer. And they exclaimed praises with joy and bowed down and worshiped. Hezekiah said, "Now you have consecrated yourselves to the Lord. Approach and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the house of the Lord." And the assembly brought sacrifices and thank offerings, and all those who were willing brought burnt offerings. The number of burnt offerings which the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 lambs. All these were for a burnt offering to the Lord. The consecrated things were 600 bulls and 3,000 sheep. But there were too few priests, and they were unable to skin all the burnt offerings. So until other priests had consecrated themselves, their brothers, the Levites, helped them until the work was done. For the Levites were more upright in heart and more conscientious, conscientious than the priests in consecrating themselves. There were also many burnt offerings with the fat of the peace offering and the drink offerings for the burnt offerings. So the service of the house of the Lord was established again. Then Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced because of what God had prepared for the people, for the thing came about suddenly. I pray God, you let me know what it is that I'm supposed to relay from that chapter, so that not only am I able to say it in the right way, but then I can understand it and hear it, what you're saying. Jesus, I pray. I just hear the Holy Spirit saying, in this season, it's going to be very important for you to listen to what God is telling you. He's going to give you instructions step by step. He will tell you, go here or go there. Give here or give there. Bless this person or that person. Because the blessings that he's bringing to you in this season is not just for yourself. It's so that you can be a blessing to the kingdom. So you can be a blessing to the other people that God is moving up through the ranks. You never know when you're being tested. God needs to see, can I even trust them? I know that they're humble when they don't have nothing. I know they're humble when they're in the wilderness, when they're crying out in pain and they're asking God, please bless us, please, broaden our territory, please, do this and that, please, please, please. God said he knows you're going to be obedient then. But can he trust you when he makes you king over your area or queen over your area? When he takes you from the prison to the palace, when he takes you from the back to the front, when he takes you from the bottom to the top, can he trust you? When he brings you to the place where he promised your forefathers that he would bring you to, can he trust you? Deuteronomy 8:18 is a whole bunch of promises of what God will do as long as you continue to trust him. 10,000 may fall at your left and 10,000 may fall at your right, but none is going to come near you. As you sow seeds into different people's ministries, and that's another thing. God wants you to sow seeds. Do not get what He has blessed you with and then try to keep it to yourself. Be a blessing to other people, because that's part of the test. When your barnyard is filled, are you going to be able to be a blessing to other people? Or are you going to put your nose down on the people that are still struggling? Are you going to look at that homeless person and shake your head? Are you going to look at that mental health patient that's walking and shake your head? Or are you going to dig into your pocket and give them that $1, that $2, that $5? Or are you going to judge? Because you got to understand that you were once in the wilderness, and at any point, suddenly, Jesus, just as suddenly He could take you from the back to the front, right? Just as suddenly He could take you from the bottom to the top. He can reverse that in an instant. Watch how you treat people that you feel like you don't need. When you get to that certain level, watch how you treat people. Don't mistreat people because you think you up here now and you don't need them no more, because you doing good. Because look at me now. Look at me. I was in the wilderness and now I'm at the top. Look at me. Don't look back at the people who are still in the wilderness and judge them, because then you'll be judged. Everybody want to hear about the promises, but they don't want to hear the warnings. There's a new sound that's coming to earth. God is bringing His angels, and He's going to be distributing different gifts on different people that are needed in this season, because God can hear the cries of the people. Just like in the book of Judges. In the book of Judges, when the kings were so horrible, God would hear the children crying out, and He would send in help. He would send in blessings. God is hearing the cries of His children right now, because there are evil kings in the land. There are principalities of darkness and rulers of high places that are doing evil to the people. Just like some of the kings that we read about in 1st and 2nd Chronicles and in 1st and 2nd Kings. Right now, it may seem like, there's no hope in sight. It may seem like things are getting worse and worse and worse, and that the evilness of this land is winning. It seems like that because we're in those days. But whenever the children of Israel cried out to God in unison, whenever the children of Israel went up to God and prayed together, whenever there was unity, and they cried out, God always, always listened. And He always sent what was needed. And those evil kings always came to hardship. They always suffered. Watch how you treat God's people. And this is even to individuals. Watch how you treat God's people. You never know when God has sent a prophet or has sent one of His disciples into your life to bless you or to give you a word of warning or whatever. Don't mistreat people, because you don't know if you're being tested. And the way that you react to that test is going to show what's about to happen in your next season. See, some people are suffering right now because of things they did in other seasons that they thought that they got away with. Nobody saw how they mistreated that person, but God saw it. And there are other people who are prospering in this season in spite of what's going on. And that's because God has seen the deeds that they've done in other seasons, how they were a blessing to other people when nobody was watching. There's a new song coming to the earth. God is His artists, his you've noticed the rise of gospel music or, inspirational music. God is releasing a new sound. Hezekiah was one of the kings that was a good king. So we're reading about how he immediately came in when God elevated him to that place. When God took him to that level that he probably promised, his father, his grandfather, great grandfather, what he promised David. When God, when Hezekiah got to where God had promised David, oh Jesus, when you get to the area where God has promised your ancestors, because you don't know how many of your ancestors was praying for future generations. God, please don't let them have to go through what I went through. Please, God, make it better for them. Please, God, let my great grandchildren, my great grandchildren prosper. Bless them, bless the seeds to come. You don't know the prayers of your ancestors. Hezekiah was taken to a level of leadership because of the prayers of David. And he was one who actually listened to what God said. He did what God said. Hezekiah was one of the good kings. He came right in about business. And he knew God placed him there. Let's go ahead and get this cleaned up. I need y'all, get all the Levites and everybody come on out, worship, clean this place up, get this, open up them doors. Listen, air out all that negative energy, all that negative stuff, because, God is giving us an assignment. A lot of y'all don't even know you're in position that you're in because you're on assignment. But can he trust you? Will you do his will? Will you be a blessing to others when you get to that level? Or will you be like King Solomon? Will you get it all and then turn away from his wise counsel? Will you get to that level that he's taking you to and then start mistreating people that you feel like are beneath you or that you don't need? I don't need them. Are you one of the people that are mistreating people because of the color of their skin? Let me tell you something. God created us all. If you're mistreating people because of their race, because of the color of their skin, because of who their mama and daddy was, because of how much money they got, you are setting up karma for yourself. Because God loves all of us. Every human on this planet. We are all God's children. I don't care how big your house is. And I don't care, how much money you got. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. God created all of us. And if you mistreating people, I'm sorry, waiting on the Most High. I normally don't even see anybody's thing, but so waiting on the Most High. Say hi. And waiting on the Most High said, the Master's Voice blog is where God speaks, and you're right. He's always watching. He is. God is always watching. God is always watching. You are so right. Waiting on the Most High. God is always watching. And you just never know when God is sending angels to you unaware. That homeless person that looks like they are so beneath you and they've been, they got a cart full of old stuff and they pushing it down the street or whatever, and they come up to you and they be like, can you spare a dollar? And for those of you who be like, yeah, and you go ahead and get that dollar, because what are you going to do with that dollar anyway? Go give it to a fast food place or whatever? For those of you who bless that homeless person, you are setting up blessings for yourself. Because you never know when somebody in your bloodline is going to be out there in them streets. His mental health is real. You don't know. When you bless a homeless person, you don't even understand what you're doing is you're sowing a seed that's going to circle back around, because at some point there may be one of your ancestors out there doing the same thing, and somebody blesses them because of the seed that you blessed somebody else with. See, it's a circle. But if you look at that homeless person and be like, the homeless is so bad, and keep on moving, that was a test. And you just flunked. You flunked the test. If you've gotten high in your organization and you're a decision maker, and somebody who you knew or who you know is a good person, has a good heart, been trying hard, and all they need is that lucky break, and they come to you and they ask you for help, and you look at them and you say, I ain't gonna be able to do it. You just flunked the test. You never know when you're being tested. People be like, I don't want to give in church. Okay, well, where do you want to give at? Give wherever God tells you to give. If God tells you to sow a seed in the church, and darn it, sow the seed. It ain't about the where you placing it. It's about your heart. It's about your heart posture. If God tells you, to give to your cousin or your sister or the homeless woman or the person over there, or to sow a seed into, a YouTube ministry, or to sow a seed in an artist, or whatever, however God leads to a domestic violence shelter, however God tells you to do, to a cancer organization, listen, you're supposed to be obedient. Because that's why he gave it to you. He didn't bless you with that just for you. So you can say, oh, I got millions in my account. Okay, but what you doing with it? Oh, I got thousands. Okay, so but who you helping? I'm glad I'm not in the hood no more. Okay, so what are you doing to help the hood? They need to do like I did. Listen, you're where you're at because God sent somebody to bless you. Everybody is one connection away from their next level. So somebody blessed you. Somebody opened the door for you. Somebody made a way for you. So how dare you look at somebody else that you feel like you don't need and shake your head? Watch how you treat God's children. Sometimes God will send people in your life that got favor on them. And you'll notice that when they enter your life and you start working with them, when you're at your lowest, things start popping up and you're like, oh, okay. And then that same person will be like, well, can you help me? No, I ain't be able to do it. Oh, my goodness. You just flunked the test. Watch how you treat people. Because the person who walked into your life with favor on their life, and the reason why you're prospering is because that person walked into your life. When you mistreat them, when you do them wrong, and that person walks away, the favor walks with them. And you've set up karma for yourself. You never know when you're being tested. That's what I just feel like. God, that was so heavy on me today that I had to come out here and do my Bible study first thing in the morning. Watch how you treat God's children. Watch how you treat people. This evilness that's going on right now, I want to sing that song, Who Let the Dogs Out? Who Let the Devil In? Like, listen, if you think that what's going on right now is God's love, I don't care. God ain't going to be having you killing each other and division and evilness and all that kind of stuff. That ain't God's energy. What's happening in the United States right now is because of the covering that's over the United States. When I read in the First and Second Chronicles, First and Second King, it's like the evil kings always brought evilness to the land and the people suffered. That's why the children of Israel would always be crying out, oh Lord, help us. Oh my gosh, what has stepped into the building? We're going through loss and devastation. We got assassinations going on. We got people getting lynched. We got economic crisis. We got suicide at an all-time high. We got people locked up on drugs more than ever. Fentanyl is taking over. The kids is disrespecting their parents. The energy is horrible. You think that's God's energy? No. There's an evil king that has covered the land. There's people in high places. There's dark energy that is suppressing. But the craziest thing is, you already knew. That's what I can. You knew. The thing about the enemy is he always got to tell you ahead of time what he's going to do. He always got to let you know. This is how I'm going to torture you. This is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to bring calamity. This is what's going to be. The enemy always got to tell you. You already knew. You were told, but you still chose to go that road. It's almost like when you be talking to kids, right? And you be trying to tell them, like, listen, don't go down that road right there, because that road, I already been down that road. Listen, and that road is hard. There's so many thorns down there. There's glass all over the place. There's thieves in the woods. Listen, there's tornadoes and there's hurricanes. You know, the people are dropping off dead. There's disease and everything is down that road. Don't go down that road. Go over here to this road. And the kids be like, why you always want to tell us what to do? You did it. Why let us live our life? So they choose the road that you tell them don't go down any daggone way. And then when they get halfway down the road, they get to whining and crying and calling you. Can you help me? Can you send me some money? Can you get me out? I told you not to go down that road. I told you what was down there. You already knew what was going to happen. They told you. He told you what they was going to do. They had a whole manifesto. I told you what they was going to do, because the enemy always got to let you know in advance what they going to do. They told you. But like an abused spouse that has no self-confidence and no love for themselves, you went back to your abuser anyway. 2020 wasn't enough. You didn't learn your lesson in 2020. The catastrophes that happened in 2020 wasn't enough. The loss of loved ones and seeing, you know, bodies get dumped in big ditches and all that kind of stuff, that wasn't enough. So you went through the honeymoon phase. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But what about all the other stuff they said they was gonna do? So now you're out here hating on each other. Killing each other, stealing from each other, robbing each other, mad. When you had the opportunity to move forward, but instead you wanted to keep going backwards. You wanted to keep pushing the other years in the time machine instead of moving forward. You didn't want to move forward because, I don't know, so you want to go back to pain. And now you like the children of Israel, whining and crying out to God. God told you ahead of time. You knew ahead of time. But God hears his children, because in the book of Judges, he would always still send help. They be crying out like how we crying out right now. Like, Lord, help us. What in the holy smackaroni? And you knew what was coming. When them airplanes start falling out the sky, and when them natural disasters start coming at the beginning of the year, you already knew. Ooh, what just walked in the building. You knew. You know, snap, what have we done? But God's still he's gonna come through. He's gonna protect his children. There's a new song coming to the land. He's gonna bring whomever or whatever is needed to unify and protect his children, in spite of the evil kings. Yeah. Take time to love on each other, y'all. The enemy wants you to hate each other. The enemy wants you to mistreat each other. You know, the enemy wants to keep that going. That's why we're in this backward spiral. It seemed like we just went back 40 years. They back to doing what they did in the 60s when they was assassinating people. They're shooting people, killing people for no reason. Back to lynching people. We literally went back a decade. All because of why? Why? Why would you choose pain? Because you didn't want an African American, or because you didn't want a woman? So you decided to go back to what you knew was pain? And now you Don't understand why we're in pain? You already knew. So I think I've said what I need to say. Watch how you treat people, y'all. You never know when God is testing you. He wants to say, what would you do? What will you do? When I give you all that you've prayed for, what will you do? When I answer your prayers, what will you do? Will you be a blessing to others? Will you sow a seed wherever I tell you? Will you help the homeless person? Will you go and help the domestic violence victim? Will you donate to domestic violence shelters? Will you be a blessing with what I give you, or will you hoard it all for yourself? And will you become like these evil kings? What will you do? You never know when you're being tested. You never know when you are entertaining angels unaware. Oh, let me see. She said something else. Waiting on the Most High. And they don't even want to hear it. The people are going to say their hearts are like stone. And, okay, hold on. Hold on, Miss Waiting on the Most High. See, I know God be, because I don't even be seeing. I don't always get to see people's comments. So this is something I'm supposed to read, Waiting on the Most High. So let me go back. Let me go back and see. And they don't even want to hear. The people are going to say their hearts are like stone. The way they talk to the prophet, calling her names and N-word, just rude, even cursing God. I'm glad I can't see the ones that's talking smack. I don't even trip on it. Listen, they done talked about me my whole life, waiting on the Most High. I feel like that's one of the reasons why God has even giving me this platform, because he knows I already went through the boot camp of being mistreated and talked about since I was a child. But those people who are calling me names, they're not hearing what I'm saying. Those are the ones who are building karma up for themselves, because you got to understand everything that I've read in the Bible so far about these evil kings and these evil people and the people who were mistreating people and doing the worst. They were setting up karma for themselves, and not just for themselves, but for their children and for their grandchildren. See, what Solomon did and how he went against what God told him to do ended up causing the children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, his great-great-grandchildren to suffer. Jesus. So it don't even matter how many people talk about me or say whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter, because you're setting up karma for yourself, because you're not willing to listen, because you don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear what God is saying. God is love every day, all day long. And so if you're not spreading love, you're spreading hate. And if you're spreading hate, then you definitely is not one of God's children. And if you're not one of God's children, then you can best believe the wrath is coming for you. And if it don't come for you now, it'll come for your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. You best understand God's word is real and true. So I don't care. You better watch how you treat God's anointed. You better watch how you treat God's children. I did what I felt like I was supposed to do, God. And so I know it's time for me to get up off of here, because, I don't want my own human feelings to come up out of here. I don't want to do that. So I just pray that for all those who have ears to hear, let them hear. For whoever you wanted to see this, either now or later, allow them to see it. And then speak to them in their own lives, or give them confirmation of what I've said today, so they will know that this is a word that's coming through me, but it's coming from you, Jesus. And guide your children, God, so that the ones who do turn them down, reject them, or not willing to help them, that they don't have a heart of anguish or stone. And they don't understand that if that door closed, or if that person didn't help, or if that wasn't them, that's that God will deal with them. But he will send a destiny helper from another place. He'll send someone, who will listen and do what God tells them to do, to bless you. If it doesn't come from where you think it's supposed to come from, or if you've been mistreated by someone that you thought was going to be there because you was always there for them, or whatever, don't worry about that. God will deal with them. But God will, if God said this is the season for you to be blessed, or this is the season for you to elevate, or this is the season for you to have this, that, and the other, He will send help from a different place. Um, oh, she said, waiting on the Most High. Said, no, I didn't say they were talking about you. I'm saying over the mass voice blood. Okay, yeah. The property is celestial. They're doing that to her, and God is sending her to speak to the nation. Ah, okay. No, they don't want to hear it. That's what I was saying. She's telling them what's going to happen here in America, and they want to take it for a joke. Let me tell you something. God is not playing. It's obvious. It's obvious. It may seem like the evil kings are winning right now. It might seem like the evil in the world is winning right now. It might seem like that. But you know, this is what I always tell people. The Bible is real time, but the Bible don't stop with Chronicles. First and Second Chronicles. The Bible goes all the way back to Revelation. So some stuff we know got to. I remember in 2012, I wrote that book, The Symbol. That dream that God gave me in 2012 was out of this world. And it's so wild because it was a prophet that came to me and told me that God was going to give me a new dream in a book. And I had not written any books in a while. And this was so out of the norm. But the dream was so real. It was obvious that it was a spiritual war between good and evil. Jesus. And in the dream, God showed me that there are angels that are walking amongst us unaware, but there are also demonic spirits that are walking amongst us unaware. And there's a spiritual war going on over God's children. The dream was so real that when I wrote the manuscript, I held it for 7 years. Because I'm just like, is this what you want me to put out? God, I wasn't really sure. It was, you know. But then in 2019, I want to say May, God said, publish the book. So I published the book. It's called The Symbol. Because I feel like that was the first symbol. God was giving a symbol. See, even in the book of Revelations, it talks about these different symbols. God is giving warnings. He lets you know. God gave me a symbol, a warning to release to the people, to let them know about the storm that was coming, the spiritual war that was coming. The book was so deep to me. But then how the world changed after that. By 2020, by January 2020, the world was changing in a way that those of us who were born in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, we ain't never experienced nothing like this before. We ain't never been this way before. We never had a disease come and cripple a whole world. We never seen that. We never seen companies crumble to the ground. We never seen mass bodies being pushed into a grave. We never saw none of that before. God definitely gave a warning through that book. There are a lot of us who have prophetic gifts that we don't even realize. I didn't even realize it. For years, I ain't really realized it. But now I understand that, God is using me, in this season, which is why He has given me the platform. He didn't give me this platform for me. Even the music that I sing, the gift of music, of song that I have, God ain't giving that to me just so I can become famous or get wealthy or not. No. He's releasing messages, words. The Bible talks about how He releases song. He ministers through music too. You got the enemy ministering through music, and then you got God's children ministering through music. Words of encouragement, words of love. You got a new song coming. The gifts you have is not just for you. The blessings you have is not just for you. The money that God is giving you, the contract, the wealth, or whatever is coming into your life, it ain't just for you. He ain't doing it just for you. He's doing it for you so you can be a blessing to other people. So do not forget him. Don't forget him. Let me see. What waiting on the Most High said, true, they don't know him at all. I change as I hear. I didn't say that I change as I hear. Thank you. It's still in stock. I love how you give God all the glory. I have to. There was a time, and I know I'm on here long, y'all. I don't know. This is just when I was young, in my 20s. I didn't have this kind of understanding. I was raised in a church, I was raised, but when you're young, you still think you the apple on top. You think you the bomb diggity. I was young. I was cute. I was shapely. I was married, had it going on, living the best life, all that kind of stuff. But I did not have God at the top of my house. I didn't understand. And then God took me through, Jesus. He took me through the wilderness. Let me see. I first went through to my first shelter when I was pregnant at 31. Oh, God. I feel like I've been in the wilderness for a long time. And he humble. God got a way. Let me tell you something. God got a way of humbling you, baby. Can't nobody humble you like God. God had to humble me. He humbled me. And he took me through the wilderness. But in the wilderness, I learned faith. In the wilderness, I began to understand the power of your tongue and what you speak. It was so much that God taught me and has been teaching me in the wilderness, Jesus, because I understand. It's like he's telling me, he's training me right now, because at some point I'm not going to be in the situation that I'm in right now, because there is a change coming to my life, because I understand this, right? And I know that God is telling me that it's time for me to go to the next level, but he had to make sure that I understood that the same way that he could take you from the bottom to the top, or from the prison to the palace, or from nothing to something, or from the back to the front, suddenly can happen. Just like you suddenly rose, you can suddenly fall, and that fall be hard, baby. I'm telling you, you better listen to the warnings. You can lose everything overnight. You can gain everything. God could take you. It only takes one person to change your life. One destiny helper who has the right information, to invest in you, to sow seeds of wisdom into you, to open doors for you. It only takes one person to change your life overnight. One person. It only takes one person. But it also could take one situation to take you from the top to the bottom. One situation, one person can enter your life with devastation on them, with death on them, they could change your life overnight like that. And that is what God is saying. Deuteronomy 8:18 is, yes, it's the truth. And he will bless you with wealth, but just do not forget about him, because as soon as and easily, or as sudden as you got it, you can lose it. And then you don't just lose it, but you don't just lose it. You got to go through a tunnel, because you didn't learn what you're supposed to learn. It's like you got to lose it all and go through a tunnel. Whew. And them tunnels be dark, baby. That wilderness ain't no joke. That wilderness is rough. Snap. Anyway, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Waiting on the Most High said, change as I hear his voice. Okay, so she's clarifying what she's saying. And also, the book you wrote is in stock. Yes, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. It's called The Symbol. And it's deep. It's deep. It's deep. I don't even want to Listen, it's it's deep. It's a science fiction thriller, is what it is. It's about just go and look it up. It's called The Symbol. It's a science fiction thriller, and it's about a serial killer actually that's going through the land. But it's so deep because of the way that God had me write the story. He had me write it in modern terms and use the healthcare field, the nurses, and the doctors to tell the story. But it's a science fiction thriller. But then he also had me use the biblical portion of it. It's so deep because he was warning us ahead of time about this spiritual war that was coming. Will send prophets into your life to tell you what he's about to do or what's about to happen. And you can listen to what those prophets are saying or you can ignore it. Because, life is about choices. But just understand that whatever decision you decide to make, once the prophet brings the word, is, that's between you and God. Watch how you treat people. Don't look down on people because you feel like you're not there no more, or you already did your time and now you're up here and they need to do what you did and all the kind of stuff. That you ain't get all that for you to hoard it. God placed you where he placed you so you could be a blessing to his children, so that he could help others who are out there crying out to God for help. God put you in that position so you could be a destiny helper for somebody else, not just so you could get the big head and think you all that in a bucket of chips. You're not. Anyway, peace and love, y'all. Thank you, Father, for letting me even experience those years in the wilderness. I'm humble. I'm humble. And I know that you're real. So, and I know there's a reason why you're even having me say this. And there's people that's going to come here now or later that need to hear this. So, and I was kind of struggling, like, I was asking God, like, do I put my Cash App and PayPal stuff on there? Because I don't want them to think that I'm just like, oh, give me some money. But God said the people who he instructs to sow a seed will, and those who don't feel it won't. But just put it there in faith. So that's why I do it. So if you feel led to sow a seed, then please do. But if God is telling you to sow a seed somewhere else, to sow it. Just be obedient to whatever God tells you in this season. Be obedient. And realize that you never know when you're being tested. So treat people right. Peace and love, y'all. Bye, Miss waiting on the Most High. I appreciate you for joining my live this morning. I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing God to use you. Peace and love.